Thank you. It was a little over a year into my brand new career as a nurse when it happened. I stood in front of my open refrigerator sobbing. Lemon chicken in one hand, taco meat in the other. Uncontrollably, I sobbed as the decision of what to have for dinner that night became a catalyst, setting off this domino chain like reaction of emotions that would not stop spilling out. I felt my husband wrap his arms around me and try to pull me into his chest, but initially I pushed him away. I was terrified to be that close to him. Instead, I allowed fear to engulf my mind in a series of what ifs. What if I hadn't cleaned myself off enough in the shower at the end of my shift that evening? What if I somehow passed the virus on to him? What if I was stuck making heart wrenching decisions for my loved ones when I couldn't even decide what leftovers to have for dinner? I had spent so long allowing these thoughts and fears and emotions to be pushed down and this pressure to build and build and build. And finally, it burst. The camel's back was broken, and in it came the knowledge that I too was broken. I was broken. But with that realization, the weight of expectations that I had placed upon myself was lifted. And I was able to replace it with this inner sense of peace. And that peace allowed me to return the warm embrace of my husband. And then it allowed me to just let him decide what we had for dinner that night. And slowly, I began to share with him all the horrible things I had experienced during the first month of the COVID-19 pandemic. And he listened, and he did his best to understand. And for the moment, that was good enough. But the next day, I was back at it again, and I was sitting at the nursing station next to another nurse on my unit, and I could feel in the air that she wasn't herself. I mean, none of us really were at this point, but today she couldn't hide it from me. Her usual sweet and kind demeanor was just replaced with this intense stare at her charting, and she was all too quiet. So I paused for the moment, trying to come up with the most genuine way to ask her how she was doing. But when I opened my mouth, I just blurted out, "So I sobbed into my refrigerator last night." And she turned with her sweet self and looked at me, completely confused, in a way that most people would have been utterly embarrassed and tried to avoid her for maybe the rest of the shift, pretending nothing happened, and maybe just the next couple shifts after that, or forever never talk to her again. But instead, that same domino chain-like reaction of emotions happened again, but this time with words. And I told her how the decision of what leftovers to eat became so incredibly overwhelming, I found myself sobbing instead. And I had this theory that it had nothing to do with dinner at all, that it was just the final thing after all of this that broke me. And the pause that followed, having spoken the words aloud to her, was filled with such relief. I had done it again. I allowed the emotions and the feelings and the words to come out instead of pushing them down. But in that moment, I had offered her an invitation to a safe space to do the same. And she did. She told me she had a fight with her boyfriend. She had just wanted to remind him to stop leaving the lights on, and the next thing she knew, she was yelling at him. She said she felt like she didn't even recognize herself lately. The silence that followed her confession felt as warm as the embrace my husband had given me the night before. Reassurance, validation, company. "I understand," I said. "Believe it or not, I don't usually cry while holding lemon chicken in my kitchen." The humor broke the tension of the moment completely, and we were together in being more than just nurses on the COVID-19 unit. We were together on that emotional roller coaster. We had each other. We were not alone. It was that moment that gave me the idea. We needed more of this. Nurses needed validation that we could only give each other, no matter how hard our loved ones and everyone else was trying. We were all scared. We were all grieving. A lot of us were angry. But we were all going through the motions while under the surface, we were pushing these feelings and these thoughts and these fears down and allowing that pressure to build and build and build. But what if we could diffuse that ticking pressure before it burst? What if we could provide nurses with a safe outlet for these emotions? Could we prevent nurses from having these emotional breakdowns? Could we normalize nurses expressing their feelings? What should have been a simple decision of what leftovers to have for dinner showed me just how damaging leftover emotions can be. And that's what started my journey to create what is now known as the RN Wellness Committee. We are a group of nurses dedicated to ensuring the well-being of our fellow nurses is optimal. Together, we promote mental health resources and wellness initiatives. And together, we remind nurses, you are not alone. We are all here for you. Nurses no longer have to cry by themselves in the kitchen or hide in that false sense of comfort that comes with suppressing your emotions. Instead, they can reach out to a member of our team, and we can share in a newfound comfort of the safe space that we create together.
Love it. Thank you so much, Christine. Feels like, again, you're connecting to these other stories in so many different ways and bringing it really to a contemporary level. Something I was wondering is what are some of the wellness resources that are on your radar that you're looking to bring in or that you don't know how to bring in yet, but you'd love to get them to your team?
Well, we're fortunate enough to have so many wellness resources on hand just through Penn Medicine. We have a great employee assistance program. We have wonderful chaplain services. Penn Cobalt is a great resource for us as well. And even our very own community wellness program offers so much for the community that our nurses take part in. I've been connected with some resources through Rutgers University because we are Princeton, located in New Jersey. They have a great nurse-to-nurse peer support that we've been working to integrate more in case there's those nurses out there that don't feel comfortable going through where they work. Everybody requires something different when it comes to their mental health and their self-care. And I'm lucky and fortunate enough to work for such a great place that provides those opportunities and says, hey, we know you're individualized. Let's find something that works for you.
Great. Really wonderful recognition. Christine, thanks so much for sharing.